Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, to YouTube. It's been a long time no see. Potentially some of you guys and girls have been following me over at Natural Bodybuilding Worldwide, which I've been working on primarily whilst I've been spending time away from YouTube. So I've still been producing content, still been putting out reels you'll see on my Instagram. And obviously if you've still been following my Instagram, you'll know that I've still been in the off season since we've sort of last covered a video. The last video that you saw would have been with Adam, which was about a year ago. And funnily enough, we trained push, so it's going to be another push session today. A little bit of a different focus to that one. That one was a shoulder focus session. This is going to be chest. And yeah, I mean, a year has passed and I've just got up to peak off-season body weight at 211 pounds. And now I've started coming down a little bit in a mini diet. Other than that, it's more of the same. It's more of the same. I could talk about so much, but I feel like a lot of you guys that are going to watch this already kind of know what's happened over the last year with myself. So we'll just catch up throughout the session. As always, I'll give you some tips, some tricks that you can take home for your push training. And yeah, let's crack on. All right guys, so first up, low incline Smith. This is an exercise in which I've been running for, I think probably when I added up, probably 24 months, something of that sort. It's been either second or first in a session for that amount of time. So when you're working with an exercise like this, you've got so many numbers in your head from 24 plus months with different body weights, and of course the exact same setup. So when I approach this now, I don't really need to think too much. I know pretty much what I'm going to be working with today based on where I'm at body weight wise, based on how the last session felt, and obviously based on my logbook. My logbook governs a huge amount of where I'm trying to go with my performance. At the moment, I'm on relatively low calories, dieting down in a mini cup. So as a result, my recovery capacity is a little lower than normal. Now, typically when I'm pushing up, my chest is a body part where, due to me not being that strong on pressing exercises, the overall fatigue from my presses isn't that great, and it's a weaker body part. So I do tend to hit 3 sets here and 3 sets on my flat cable press, which comes afterwards. But when I'm dieting down, recovery capacity is a little less. I'm aiming to protect performance, 2 sets here, 2 sets there. So this is just part of the process in which I want you guys to understand is that your recovery capacity is a constantly floating variable through different phases. Your body composition and energy intake is a large part of what's going to govern that. So right now, volume a little lower, dieting down, lower calories, pushing up, higher food, higher recovery capacity, volume a touch higher on some body parts, which need a little bit more focus. So some really quick tips for any presses really. So you want to look at setting up on the bench with slight spinal extension. So for those that don't really know what spinal extension is, think about literally just lifting your chest up. Think about if you were to want to stretch your abs at the top of a crunch. That's kind of the cue that you want to think about. Set yourself up in slight spinal extension. Make sure you take a grip, which allows you to, at the bottom position, have your wrist directly above your shoulder joint. Sorry, directly above your elbow joint. And then in the bottom position, think about, as you're coming into the stretch, almost rowing the weight towards you rather than letting it fall. That's a huge common error that we see, is the weight just falls on top of people. Think about rowing it towards you and then pressing away from your body, trying to drive your elbows a little bit together. And those are basic cues which can help you massively. It's those simple 3 things. If you want to add a fourth, is make sure that when you set your feet on the floor, they don't go anywhere. Keep them in place, keep them there the whole set. Don't let them wiggle around all over the place, keep them planted. This is your base, leading up into your pelvis. Everything staying stable will help you stay tight the whole set until the final rep. All right, so warm-ups. A lot of people would love to hear about warm-ups. Warm-ups up to a 2.5 plate top set. The bar for about 6 to 10 reps. Then we went 20 kilos aside for again about 6 reps. And then we went a 20 kilo at a 10, so 1.5 aside. for about 4 reps. This will be about 2, and then I'll probably touch 2 and a 5 just to bridge the gap, because a 20 kilo increase on your presses is quite a bit. It's a large jump, so as soon as you unrack that 20 kilo jump, it's gonna feel quite heavy in your hands. That may affect your performance on the outcome of that top set. So just bridging the gap a little closer on your presses, I find really, really helps. Unless you're a freak of nature and you're a really strong presser and you've done many 3 plate and above sets, then maybe you can make 20 kilo jumps and you'll be just fine. This is my preference. Pro tip, don't be an idiot like me and buy wrist wraps this long. You don't need them this long, they're stupid. I need the short ones. I don't know why I ordered these. It's like I'm trying to compete in some sort of like IPF powerlifting meet. But like, no, don't use these. So I would borrow Loz's, but I don't want to be that frustrating boyfriend that comes over and nicks all of her kit off of her while she's trying to do her presses as well. So we'll deal with these for today. Easy. Oh yes, come on man. That's good, that's good. Presses is one of those things where I have to kind of, as much as I love to get inspired by other people, I've always found I do have to, yes, get inspired by other people, but also stay in my own lane a little bit. Because I've always wanted, I will at some point be that person that does press 3 plates on a Smith consistently. I will be that person, 100%. But I feel every time I try and be that person too soon, I just start doing stuff which I tell clients not to do, like rush progressions, you know, chase load over execution. And I'm chasing this like 3 plate press goal, but I'm not actually thinking about the fact that my chest is a weak point and I need to move weight with intent. So my advice to those that, especially with a weaker body part, and you see someone really strong, and you're like, oh, I want to do that, that's going to give me X. Yeah, it might, but you've also got to move that weight with their intended muscle. Otherwise, that muscle is still going to be weak. So, you know, set your parameters, set your goals, and chase your own development. Like, that's so key in bodybuilding. Yes, be inspired by others, but ultimately, make sure that your work is the best work you can do, and that's going to get you very far.
All right. Good. Good, come on. Oh. Yes, come on, nice and strong. Yes, good. Let's go. Drive. Stick with. There you go.
Leave. That was okay. Again, pretty much a match. Well, it was a match on last week, so I'll take that at the moment. But yeah, these sets, if I can hold, I'm 3.5 pounds down on the last time I did this, so if I can hold performance with the same execution, I'm happy. Well, I say I'm happy, I'm not happy. I want to progress, I want to be my logbook, but the reality is in these phases of pulling down, you're not going to be flying like you were when you were eating plenty. And that's a psychological shift that I still find very difficult, because I absolutely, like, the thing that I love most about training is doing stuff I've never done before. That's the massive fuel for my passion of training is beating the logbook, writing down something I've not done before, or I beat last week. So when I don't, it's a little bit like, it is what it is. It's work that's part of the process. That's fucking better. So that again was a match on last week, but it felt like there was not as much of a battle as there was in that top set. So I think, again today, maybe I just need a little bit more time before my top set, warming up, getting ready, flicking the switch, so to speak, turning my head on, because that second set moved a lot better, and I think a part of that was just down to me being more mentally prepared. One of my absolute favourite chest exercises is one I've been running for about 7 months, so you notice trends, these movements staying for a long time. It's why you don't see, if you scroll through my Instagram feed, you don't see much variety. It's not like I'm doing a dumbbell one week, a barbell the next week, a Smith the next week. There's not much variety, it's all the same stuff. It's logbooked and it's progressed. And that really is the most accurate way to make long-term progress, is do the same stuff, repeat it, do it better. So cable press setups, you'll notice that Loz actually has the cable inlet a little lower than me. That's because she's a little further down the seat. Because when you're in the contraction, you want the cable to line up with your upper arm, okay? Some good cues on this as well is so many people will come into the stretch on the cable press here. That's lined up with your anterior delt. The pecs are going to gain a little bit more leverage as you bring your upper arm closer to your ribcage. Not all the way here like triceps, but about a middle ground, like here's good. All right, I know I'm talking in specifics here, but find your way. It's most likely not going to be here. It's probably going to be around about here for you. Foot pecs. Slight spinal extension again. Drive that upper arm across the body. Function of the pecs, horizontal adduction, and that's what we're doing here. So a great exercise for training the pecs. Another good thing to do, guys, is just part a dumbbell at the back of the bench, because you'll notice when you go heavy, you'll sit down and the bench will start to slide closer to the narrow cable stack. So just part something to weigh this down.
Nice.
That's it, come on, chest high, chest high.
Oh, yeah, again.
Yes, good, again. Lovely. Say one more. Come on, stick with, I'm here. Yep. Ooh, lovely, good, left side mine. The best way to act as a spotter on this. We've tried it from the front, obviously grabbing the elbow joint. You just can't really get enough leverage. There's so much load back here. So you're much better to be closer to the load itself and be able to create more leverage to actually help your training partner. And then obviously catch the other side when they're done.
Nice, come on. Yes, come on. All the fucking way, all the way, come on, drive it through. Don't let me help, get that short. Yes, lovely.
One with you.
Okay, let's go. Stick.
Mother.
Got it?
This will also be such a good exercise for, I mean obviously I'm dieting down now, but like I'm still really heavy. So like when I'm getting a lot leaner, this will be great. It's so stable, and like your upper back doesn't really make a huge difference, whereas even on like Smith presses or especially dumbbell presses, the amount of body fat you've got around your hips and your lower back makes such a massive difference. I mean, it still does make a difference here for sure, but just not quite as much because there's just so much going on which creates stability. So I know these exercises for some might look like, oh, you're making it too complicated or something, or why not just use a dumbbell? Well, there's a load of reasons why you might not want to use a dumbbell during a diet, because you're not going to be able to control that dumbbell as well as when you had 20 pounds more body fat. As simple as that. So if you're able to do a little bit more accurate work with still heavy weight, that was almost the stack on the cable press. You're definitely going to hold on to muscle, if not better, than you will getting upset with your dumbbell presses. What was that golfer's name that was on the thing last night?
Matt Fitzpatrick.
Oh yeah. So we were watching, what's it called again?
Full Swing.
Full Swing, which is like a Netflix documentary on, very similar to Drive to Survive. And there's a guy called Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about golf. But the interesting thing about Matt is that he's like a shorter dude, you know, built quite slim, whereas a lot of golfers are like 6 foot, big, powerful guys that can drive really far. And he won his like first Grand Slam or whatever it is.
Major.
Major,
Yeah.
sorry, that's tennis Grand Slam. See, my sport, golf knowledge is limited. So he won his first major, US Open, maybe it was last year, year before or something. And he logbooks every single one of his shots, every single one. And there's a lot in that documentary about like how his precise accuracy and like long-term meticulous nature has got him to such a high level, despite not maybe being genetically the best. So I just think that that maybe proves to you guys some things about, you know, being meticulous with what you do. Yes, do the approach you enjoy. We all say this, do the approach you enjoy. But like at the end of the day, there's going to be people out there that are willing to do things very, very meticulously, day in, day out. And if you're missing a beat, maybe those people will catch up on you slowly, slowly, slowly. But maybe they will. So just think about it.
Get it short, get it short, get it short. Good.
One with you.
Okay, let's go. Stick with it, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it.
Mother. 2 sets later and we're done on the cable press, so we're 4 sets deep now. Typical rep ranges, guys, you probably already know sort of what I work with, so it's like a lower set, like a 6 to 9, and then roughly 11 to 15. Again, I think a lot of people maybe overthink rep ranges to the point where if they're not in the rep range, the whole workout is ruined. It just doesn't work like that, guys. Like, okay, aim to have a specific range in which you're working in, but if on one day you fall a little short or you come a little bit above, as long as you've taken the set to fail, that's a good set. Like, that's it, with good execution. So, you know, sometimes I'll come short, I'll do a 4 when I was meant to do a 5, and it doesn't really all that matter that much. I just adjust the loading for next time. It's as simple as that.
Nice and powerful here, let's go. Yes, strong. Good. Yeah, good again, come on, everything. All the way, all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. Yeah, lovely.
So I think maybe some people would have the question, what are we trying to like bias with the dips? Is it triceps, is it chest? Really, it's kind of everything. I'm not really taking a specific grip, like tucking my elbows in or letting them flare out. I'm just going for like where I feel my strongest. And when I come out of that, I feel like I've hit both my chest and triceps pretty well. So I say for most people, most training ages, don't go in with a bias unless you're doing it on an arm day. Obviously you might want to just bias your triceps. But if you're doing it on like a push day, just go in strongest arm position and dip. That's simple. Whew. So notice in that back off set, I will take it all the way until I'm just getting partials. I'm more than fully aware that the last 4 reps are not complete reps. I do not count them. Those are merely just taking everything I've got really out of the set without leaving anything on the table, because I know for a fact I've got more in that lengthen to middle range. Obviously we've done 2 pec exercises, so my ability to get all my body all the way through and get myself into a sort of shortened position is pretty taxed by now. So just getting everything out of that stretch position is what I want. All right guys, so very similar cues to the cable press as a whole. We still want that chest up position, but here we're trying to target a little bit more of the upper pec, or the nerdy word is clavicular fibers if you want to use that. But yeah, more upper pec here. The reason being is that because we're coming from a low arm path up to a high angle here, and we're cutting across, so we're gonna hit these guys. Like, often you see people set this up and they'll have the bench either way too far back, or they'll have it super upright, and they'll just, again, just be coming like all the way up here. You're just losing out on where the pecs gain leverage. It's gonna cause potentially a lot of shoulder issues for a lot of people, and just use like a lot more anterior delt. So if you want pec, again, think about that upper arm coming a little closer to the rib cage, not all the way in here, but about here, and then cue the upper arm across the body. And due to the fact it's coming low to high, a bit more upper pec. If we're coming high to low, we'll work maybe a little bit more sternocostal fibers, the lower fibers of the pec. And then if we set it up in the middle, we're probably going to hit a mixture of most of the pec, but maybe a little bit more of the lower pec in general. If you haven't got a narrow cable stack, you can kind of set this up on a wide cable stack and do it single arm. So if you took a bench and you had the cable inlet like here, and you took a D handle and you went across your body like that, from a low angle to a high angle, you could do that, but equally, being honest with you could just use a dumbbell. There's not really a huge issue with using a dumbbell. You're going to get a little bit more middle and end range challenge with the cables, but using a dumbbell really isn't going to be a problem if you haven't got a cable stack or you don't want to do a single arm.
Good. Come on. I'm on.
And make it easy for yourself to get in, guys. Don't put the bench a million miles away from the cable stack so that you have to walk with, you know, the whole load and then waste energy. Put it so that you can, and use long D handles or daisy chain, so you can just hook in and go. It should just be enough so you can get in the full stretch without touching the stack again. And you can also pin the stack if you want, but that's a whole other topic of discussion where you have to find another pin and blah blah blah. So basically just put the bench close to the cable stack. Oh dear.
That's why you should look after your logbook.
Oh dear me. Say goodbye to the logbook. Oh well.
Very nice. Come on. Good. Come on.
Alright guys, so onto the delt component of the session. As I said at the start of the session, this is very chest focused. The other session that we do is very shoulder focused, to be honest. It's more high incline presses. And this is something that I put up an Instagram story a while back. Some of you may well have seen it. But I've just found a groove with, instead of having, you know, like a regular push session where you might have, you know, a high incline press and like a low incline press. So you kind of like mix the two compounds together, so you have a shoulder and a chest. I just found that I just got a little bit better progression with having one chest focused day and one shoulder focused day. Just found that way this off season. It just kind of naturally came to me. So these things sometimes will come to yourselves, and you'll just find ways to make more progress, which ultimately is the name of the game. So yeah, now we're moving on to the shoulder component, which isn't very isn't much. It's just laterals really. So we're just going to do a dumbbell lateral, followed up by a Y raise. We'll show you the setup on that. With the dumbbell lateral, I just take 2 sets. I take one heavy loading set with a little bit of body English just to get the weight moving without being silly with it. So I'll show you what that kind of looks like. And then we do a higher rep set where we drive a ton of blood flow. Both sets is always taken to failure. I've had this discussion multiple times in videos, but I really think with dumbbell laterals you can either decide to just treat them as a very much like a, you know, an exercise where you stay with similar loads and, you know, just drive as much blood flow as you can, or you can decide to try and progress with a loading set and use your back off set to try and maybe be a touch more accurate and drive a bit more blood flow. I choose the heavy and then the light. That's my personal preference. So I'm thinking now about drilling my feet into the floor, because this is not just this. The lateral starts with this, everything from the waist down. So if everything from the waist down is like your glutes aren't slightly tense, your feet aren't driven into the floor, you're going to be loose there, and then you're working with limited stability. So drill your feet into the floor, slight internal rotation, and then just cue wrists, bang, either sides of the walls. Work slightly in front of the body. You'll have heard the term scapular plane for laterals, and that's what we're working in now. Some people might not use straps, fair play, doesn't matter. When you're holding the dumbbell up here, there is a challenge with the wrist to hold the dumbbell in place, especially if you're going heavy. On light sets, maybe not so much, but on heavy sets, definitely. And I don't like to hold my wrist out like this. Yeah, so notice that. I like to hold it like this. So when I'm up here, the dumbbell's being pulled down in that direction. So if I've got a strap, I can just stay a little bit more locked in. Typically get a couple more reps. One.
Yeah, come on. All the way, all the way.
So with the Y raise, you might be asking, like, why do we set it up on the floor as opposed to setting up on the bench? Why are we using an arm cuff like a Y rather than like a normal lying cuff? So the Y raise is something I've been doing for maybe about, again, 3 or 4 months, something like that. It's a great all-round shoulder exercise for shoulder health. It's also a great medial delt exercise. So it kind of tags on nicely after dumbbell lateral. So we're going to get a little more lengthened range challenge as opposed to dumbbell lateral. It's going to be a lot of middle and short range challenge. So it kind of acts quite nicely in terms of resistance profile of the course of the session. And then in terms of not using the bench, it just happens that more often than not, a bench might not be available. It's as simple as that. So it's a really predictable setup where we know exactly where we have the arms. We know we're not using a different bench. We just sit down on the floor and it's replicable. It's the same every time. So I just find that that's the majority of the reason why. The other reason is that I actually find I'm a bit more stable with my whole body supported on the floor than I am on the bench. And again, that's personal preference. So give it a shot and see if you like it set up like this. As you can see, we want pretty much the cable inlet as you come into the stretch to be in line with the wrist joint. And then you just want to cue the same thing as I said with the dumbbell laterals. Wrists down either side of the walls. And obviously you're cueing in the shape of a Y, hence the name Y raise. So onto triceps. So on this day, I do my overhead work before I do my push down, just because on this specific session I do the dumbbell skull crusher, which is one of my favorite long head tricep exercises. I know there's again some arguments that it doesn't line up that well, etc., but I've always felt it well in my triceps, and I've never really got any elbow issues from it at all. So if you get elbow issues from doing it, stick with your cable and cuff work, but no issues on this end so far. So yeah, we're gonna load up a heavy set and then do two sort of lighter sets, and then go into my push downs afterwards. So top set with the 26s, that was a rep up on last time, with form that I was okay, happy with. I know some people like to see the upper arm fixed on overhead tricep work, but I like a little bit of movement. I feel if I fix my upper arm, I limit my loading so much. Yes, I might be getting a bit of other muscles in there to get it moving, but I'd rather use 10 kilos heavier weight with pretty similar form, small discrepancies, than completely lock my upper arm in space and do this, which I do on my other day with cuff work, and I do on my leg day with cuff work. So this is my heavy day, so we allow for a little bit more maneuver in terms of execution without moving ourselves away from the target muscle completely, of course. So for reference, the 20s used to be my top set on these for like a set of 9, and now they're a back off for a set of 15. And that's about maybe a year of work, something of that sort, on this exercise. So and my triceps are much bigger. So it really is that simple. Like, you know, probably heard JP on a lot of rants always say, push your body weight up, push your lifts up. That's bodybuilding, and it really is kind of that simple, guys. Push your weight up, push your lifts up. I always use the term like appropriate execution, and that's not to validate bad form. That is just to say that I'd rather see someone like get the hell after it. I'd rather see someone really send sets and stay safe, yeah, but I'd rather see someone send it than just stay in this like confined space of perfect execution and never push the boundaries. Because I honestly think the people that do that, sounds sort of like such a blunt point, but they build more muscle. They build more muscle, they're bigger. They challenge themselves more. They're not afraid of pushing the limits of the boundaries. And yeah, just like, guys, open up your mind to what you can achieve. Push the limits, and don't live in a box. Don't live in a box. It's just not a good place to live. Alright guys, so before we wrap up this video, I just wanted to discuss a little bit about why I've been a little bit absent from YouTube. And yeah, it's nothing clickbaity, don't worry. It's simply that I've been putting a lot of time and attention from pretty much June of last year when we launched Natural Bodybuilding Worldwide, all the way up until now. So we're closing in a year. We've got out an amazing team of athletes that are providing content on a weekly basis. We've obviously got a huge amount of information on the site through the course section, which I was busy developing in the middle part of last year. And I always say this to people that, you know, maybe come to me for coaching and at the time can't afford it, or I speak to people in the gym that are like starting to get into just training in general and wanting to learn more. There's a lot of people in here that want to learn more, and I'm sure it's the same in many gyms. And it's really a platform that, if you go through the course structure, if you go through some of the training videos, and then you use the forum to ask the right questions, you could be an extremely good athlete over the course of time. by applying yourself to the principles that are laid out on the site. You know, yes, you might need a coach at some point for the intricacies and the communication, the accountability, but that site will provide you such an amazing platform to leap into being a better athlete. So if you want to be better, you know, if you want to improve, and you know you've got a little bit of spare disposable income, $7.99 a month to put towards the site, you know, cut back on a couple of Americanos that you've been having. That's not a sales plug, okay, maybe it is, but you know what I mean, like, you know, part that money towards the site, see what you think. You can try it out for a week for free, so check it out, guys. Comment below any ideas that you want me to put out on YouTube. I must be honest, probably won't do a full day of eating. I might do a full day of eating. It's going to be very boring. You'll have to wait until my food gets a little bit higher, because I can actually give you some education with that. Because right now it's just very, very boring diet food, so you won't want to see that. But maybe when my food gets higher, I'll give you some tips and tricks. So yeah, guys, obviously thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it a lot, and I hope you enjoy the content being back on YouTube. Probably going to be at least one a month, one a month on YouTube. And then if you're interested in enjoying the site, we've got literally content coming out weekly there. So, all right, guys, we'll leave it there. Catch you soon.